Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, buckle up, because this one's going to hit you right in the feels. Imagine this, a single dad, still wearing the same tired hoodie he's had for 6 years, walks into a quiet little diner for a blind date he never wanted, and locks eyes with the shy waitress who's been quietly taking his order for months. He has no idea she's the only daughter of the richest man in the city. She has no idea he's the first person who's ever looked at her like she's just her. What happens next? Let's dive in. Mark Thompson hadn't been on a date in 7 years. Not since the night his wife kissed their newborn daughter on the forehead, whispered, "Take care of daddy," and never came home from the hospital. After that, life became a blur of diapers, midnight fevers, school plays, and endless overtime at the auto shop just to keep the lights on. His little girl, Lily, was now 8, all gap-toothed smiles and crayon drawings, and she was the reason he finally said yes when his sister set up the blind date. "You need to live again, Mark," his sister had pleaded. "Lily needs to see her dad happy." So there he was, 6:55 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, sitting in a corner booth at Rosie's diner, palms sweaty, rehearsing the same 3 sentences he'd practiced in the mirror. "Hi, I'm Mark. I have an 8-year-old. I hope that's okay." The bell above the door jingled. He looked up, and forgot every word. She was soaked from the rain, dark hair plastered to her cheeks, clutching a tiny umbrella like a shield. Simple black dress, no makeup, eyes the color of storm clouds. She scanned the diner nervously, then spotted the red rose his sister had insisted he bring. Mark stood up too fast, knocking his knee on the table. Hi. Are you Emily?" The girl froze. Her gaze darted to the rose, then to him, then to the floor. "I think there's been a mistake," she whispered, voice barely audible over the clatter of plates. I work here." Mark's stomach dropped. "You're the waitress?" She nodded, cheeks flaming. "I'm so sorry. My friend Mia signed me up for the app as a joke. She used my photo without telling me. I only came because I saw the rose and thought," she trailed off, mortified. I'll go." "No, wait." The word left his mouth before he could stop it. Something about the way she hugged her arms around herself, like she was trying to take up less space, cracked something open in his chest. "Please. Sit. Just for a minute. You're already wet, and the cocoa here is actually decent." She hesitated, then slid into the booth opposite him, dripping onto the cracked red vinyl. For a long moment, neither spoke. The diner hummed around them, fork scraping, the old jukebox crooning something from the 90s, rain drumming the windows. Finally Mark managed a sheepish grin. "So, worst blind date ever?" A tiny laugh escaped her, the softest sound he'd ever heard. "Top 3, at least." That was the beginning. Her real name was Amelia Voss. Everyone at the diner just called her Emmy. She worked the evening shift 4 nights a week, always wore the same faded apron with a tiny rip near the pocket, and memorized every regular's order without writing anything down. She had a habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, and she never accepted tips over $5, no matter how many times someone tried. Mark started coming in on nights he didn't have Lily. At first he told himself it was just for the cocoa. Then for the quiet corner booth where he could grade papers, he'd gone back to night school for his teaching certificate. Then, if he was honest, just to watch Emmy move between the tables like she was trying not to be noticed. One night in late October, the diner was nearly empty. A drunk customer grabbed her wrist when she tried to clear his plate. Before Mark even registered moving, he was out of the booth, hand on the guy's shoulder, firm, not violent. "Let go of her. Now." The man grumbled but released her. Emmy's eyes were wide, frightened, but she mouthed a quiet thank you as the jerk stumbled out. Later, when she brought Mark his usual cocoa, extra whipped cream, no cinnamon, she lingered. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yeah, I did. She bit her lip. Most people don't. Mark met her gaze. I'm not most people. Something shifted after that night. She started sitting with him on her breaks. He learned she was 27, loved old books, and could quote entire passages of Jane Eyre from memory. She learned he built birdhouses with Lily every spring, that he still kept his wife's favorite scarf in the glove box because it smelled like her, and that he cried every year on Lily's birthday, not because he was sad, but because his little girl looked more like her mom every day. He never asked why someone as gentle and clearly educated as Emmy was waitressing in a rundown diner. She never asked why he flinched whenever someone said the word widow. Some things you just feel aren't ready to be spoken yet. Then came the night everything almost ended. It was the week before Christmas. The diner was slammed. Mark had promised Lily he'd be home by 9 to help decorate the tree, but he'd stopped in, just for 5 minutes, to give Emmy the tiny carved owl he'd made in his woodworking class. When he walked in, she was arguing with a man in an expensive coat, tall, silver-haired, voice like ice. I've given you enough time to play at this little experiment, the man snapped. The board meets in January. You will be there, Amelia, or I cut you off completely. Emmy's hands shook as she untied her apron. I told you, Dad. I'm not coming back. Dad. Mark felt the floor tilt. He knew that face, he'd seen it on the cover of Forbes. Alexander Voss. Voss Enterprises. Net worth in the tens of billions. Emmy, his Emmy, was the sole heir. She saw Mark then. Her face crumpled. Mark. He couldn't breathe. All the nights she'd let him pay for her cocoa with crumpled fives. All the time she'd pretended she didn't have a car so he could drive her home in the rust bucket pickup. The way she'd blushed when he called her beautiful like it was the first time anyone ever had. He backed toward the door. I think I left the stove on, he lied, and walked out into the snow. He didn't answer her texts for 3 days. On the 4th day, Christmas Eve, his doorbell rang at 7 a.m. He opened it to find Emmy standing on his snowy porch in the same thin coat she always wore, cheeks red from cold, holding a small, wrapped box. Lily peeked out from behind him. Daddy, there's a princess at the door. Emmy's eyes filled. Hi, Lily. I'm just Emmy. Mark couldn't look at her. What are you doing here? I quit the diner, she said quietly. And I told my father that if being his daughter means I can't choose my own life, then I don't want any of it. The money, the company, none of it. She held out the box. I know you think everything between us was a lie. It wasn't. The only thing I hid was my last name. Everything else, every laugh, every late-night talk, every time I felt safe just because you were there, that was real. He stared at the box. Emmy. Please, Mark. Open it. Inside was the tiny carved owl he'd given her, only now it had been fitted with a delicate silver chain, transformed into a necklace. And tucked beneath it was a crayon drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a Christmas tree. One had brown curly hair and a tool belt, Daddy. One had pigtails and a gap-toothed smile, Lily. The third had long dark hair and a little apron. Across the top, in careful 8-year-old letters, my family. Lily tugged his sleeve. Daddy, she made me hot chocolate with the tiny marshmallows shaped like stars. And she said she's scared of thunderstorms too, just like me. And she let me put the angel on the tree even though I'm short. Her eyes went wide. Can she stay? Mark looked at Emmy, at the woman who'd chosen a cracked vinyl booth over a private jet, who'd chosen him when she could have had anyone. He stepped forward, cupped her cold face in his hands, and kissed her like the world was ending and beginning at the same time. When they pulled apart, foreheads still touching, he whispered, "Your dad's going to hate me." Emmy laughed through her tears. He already does. Something about net worth and background checks. Let him, Mark said. I'm pretty good with my hands. I'll build us a house he can't buy. Lily squealed and threw her arms around both their legs. A year later, the wedding was small, just close friends, Lily as the flower girl, and a reception at Rosie's diner because that's where they fell in love. Alexander Voss sat in the back row, arms crossed, scowling, until Lily marched up, handed him a crayon drawing of a grandpa with silver hair holding a little girl's hand, and said, "You're invited to tea parties on Tuesdays. Emmy says you have to wear the crown." The old man stared at the drawing for a long time. Then, to everyone's shock, he put the paper crown on his head and let Lily lead him to the kids' table. Sometimes love isn't about finding someone who has everything. Sometimes it's about finding the person willing to give everything up, just to sit across from you in a quiet diner booth and share a cup of cocoa, extra whipped cream, no cinnamon. And that, guys, is the story of how a broke single dad stole the heart of a billionaire's daughter, and gave her something money could never buy, a real family. If this story made you tear up even a little, hit that like button for Mark, Emmy, and little Lily, and subscribe because I've got so many more real-life love stories coming your way. See you in the next one.